Yes, I'm just 20 years old, and yes, I did all the paperwork to buy an apartment on behalf of my parents. And when I mean all, I mean all. My parents just had to sell the apartment and sign some papers. And finally, yes, I also rented out the apartment by choosing the tenant and writing the contract. So in this video, we are going to see how to buy an apartment or a house in Switzerland, because it's majorly different from other countries. It's really extremely different. Think about the fact that we do not pay out our debts. For example, in America, you pay your debts in 30 years, for example, 20 years, 15 years. In Switzerland, in 120 years, for example. So let's see in this video how to buy an apartment and how to rent it out. Hey, it's Dario and this is Divity Finance, a platform where we can share our best tips and tools when it comes to trading, investing or finance in general. If you love the subject, please consider subscribing. So let's dive right into the video because it's a 4-paper script. So it's going to be a really long video. But first, if you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like. Really, I need this. This video is so long, it took me so much time to set it up. Imagine that we had to buy an apartment to do this video, so just leave a like and let me know in the comments down below if you already bought an apartment, whether in Switzerland or in one other country, either you personally or on behalf of your parents maybe, as I did. So let's dive right into the video right now and see how to buy an apartment. So first of all, what you want to do is, before buying an apartment, understanding what is the apartment that you can buy. So what you want to do is understanding the price point that you can afford, which means that you want to calculate what is your mortgage. To do that, you can use the UBS Calculator. I will put it in the description, okay? You use that calculator and you just input the price of the property. You just put, I don't know, 500,000, and then you put the down payment that you want to do, which should be at least 20%, but we're going to talk about the down payment later in this video. And also you need to put your annual income. That is crucial because the banks want to calculate your affordability, your sustainability of the mortgage, and to do that they use the salary, they use the annual gross salary that you have. So use that. And for the interest rates, you can go on comparis.ch, where you can see the interest rate of all the major banks in Switzerland. Just take the average interest rate that you can find. I think that right now is between 1%, 1.2% for a 10 years loan, and just use that, okay? I would say that you should use the less advantageous for you so that you are safer, okay? So just input that and then play around with the numbers, especially the price point of the building, of the property, and see what you can afford, okay? I believe that the sustainability is calculated on a 33% or 20%, I don't remember exactly, which means that your mortgage plus the amortization plus the 1% for maintenance shouldn't go up more than 20 or 33% of your annual salary. So that's the sustainability, but the calculator will give you the check if everything is okay. So when you have that check and you know what you can buy, that's pretty much safe to say that you are going to receive the loan. Of course, if you know that you have some problem with the law, you have some problem with paying your debts, that's another story, and you shouldn't even try to get a mortgage, okay? So now the next thing, of course, is to search for the apartment. How do you search for the apartment? Well, you use some websites. Every canton or state, if you want to call them in the American way, has certain websites that they use majorly, okay? So for example, in my canton, which is Ticino in Italian, we use tutti.ch. And also we use ImmoScout. ImmoScout is a platform that almost everyone in Switzerland uses, so you should be able to find apartments in your region even if you use ImmoScout, which is the most important to use, okay? Now, as soon as you find the apartment, you need to do two things. One is contacting a financial advisor. Why is it important to contact a financial advisor? It's important because many financial advisors, for example, the SwissLife Select, which is a company that has many financial advisors in it, and a family member of ours works in SwissLife Select, so we were able to contact him. So as I was saying, the financial advisor will put you in an advantageous situation because many banks are affiliated to these brokers, if you want to call them brokers, but they are mainly financial advisors. And the interest rate will be much lower. We had an interest rate of around 0.25% less than what we would have had if we didn't have the financial advisor introducing us to the bank, which doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot contact directly the bank, as I did. For example, for several reasons, I decided to contact directly the bank. So what I did is give the first documents to the financial advisors, who then gave those documents to the bank, and then I asked the financial advisor, so the family members of ours, to give me the email of the bank, so of the person that was in charge of the mortgage for our case, and I just contacted him directly. Okay, so we just took appointments directly, we exchange documents directly and all of that. Okay, so just remember that it's not necessary that you just contact the financial advisors. You can also contact directly the bank, but it's important to have the financial advisor that is affiliated to the specific bank so that you can have a better interest rate, which is what we all want. Okay, the second thing that you need to do as soon as you find the apartment, so as soon as you contact the financial advisors, you need to do in parallel contacting the seller. That's because you need to take an appointment. Okay, you need to take, of course, an appointment to see the apartment. You cannot just buy the apartment without seeing it. So just take the appointment and go see the apartment as soon as possible. You need to do everything as soon as you can because there are many other people that are interested in the apartment and you need to be fast. So just take the apartment as soon as you can and go see the apartment. Now, unless they made really bad ads and fake ads, the apartment should be very similar to what you saw on the internet. So you should already be able at a glance to say if you like that apartment and if you are going to buy that apartment. Of course, be careful. All the calculation that you need to do, which is the sustainability, the mortgage, and also what I maybe didn't mention, the 3 to 5% increase in price because you need to pay some taxes. All those things should already be calculated. And also, if you plan to rent out the apartment, you already need to calculate what is your profit margin, and even before searching for the apartment, because it's extremely important that when you see the apartment you can say at a glance in 30 seconds if you're going to buy that apartment or not. So just do your calculations. If you want to know how much you can rent out the apartment, you just go again on those websites where you found the apartment, you just search for renting instead of purchasing, and you will find the rent prices. Okay, for our case, for example, we saw that the range of rent was between 1100 and 1300 francs for that kind of apartment. Okay, our was a little bit of a strange situation because in that specific area there were no new apartment. Our is a new apartment. There were no new apartment, one bedroom apartment, so it was kind of hard to specifically go ahead and choose a price point. We just moved the region a little bit and we found the prices on that region, and then I just lowered a little bit the price because that region is a city basically, and when we bought the apartment it's not technically a city, so I just lowered a little bit the price, and so that's it. Okay, so just look around and you will find the range of rent that you can ask. So again, as I was saying, go see the apartment. And why you need to take a decision as soon as possible? Because you need to contact the bank officially and you need to give all the documents that the bank needs to open your mortgage, and you need all the documents that the seller will give to you. Okay, you just say the seller that you are interested in the apartment, you ask them for all the documents that the bank needs. Also, you can ask the financial advisors what documents you need to send. Of course, these documents kind of differ from bank to bank, so just ask. Okay, asking is never wrong. Just ask ask. But yeah, the main documents will be the PPP, the extract for the parcel, and the divisions of the parcels if it's a building with multiple apartments. So these are the three most important documents about the apartment that you will need to send to the bank, and also documents that you need for your archive. So just archive all those documents, don't lose them. Now, at this point, you have all the documents and you need to send all the documents to the financial advisor that will then send all the documents to the bank. So you need all the documents from the apartment and also all the documents from your side. From your side, you will need the most recent taxation that you have, even if it's not yet been approved by the tax agency. And then you will need at least 1 month of certificate of salary. Better if it's 3 months. We sent 3 months. It's always better to give more than less, okay? It's going to be faster. Then the certificate of second degree pension, which is the LPP. At least in Italian it's called like that. If you don't know what is it, you probably don't live in Switzerland, so just know that it's something related to pension. And also lastly, you will need to send the job contract. Be careful, you need to send the documents for you and for your partner if you want your partner to be involved in the mortgage. I would say that unless you have a really strong financial situation, which means that you earn so much money, you don't have debts, and you are perfectly financially speaking, you can go ahead and just use your documents, okay? But if your financial situation it's not that good, if you don't earn as much as you should earn to afford the apartment, just send all the documents also for your partner and buy the apartment, both of you. Of course, if you are married, you will need to do this, okay? That's not a choice. If you're married, both of you need to send the documents. Now, also, when you contact the bank, you will also need to give 2 key information. One is the price of the property. You will need to tell the bank how much the property costs, because they need to calculate the mortgage, right? And also you will need to tell the bank the down payment that you want to make. Now, let's talk a little bit about the down payment, because it's a little bit weird, okay? So, first of all, for a normal property, primary house, residence house where you want to live in and not rent out, you will need a 20% down payment, at least a 20% down payment. Now, since it's a primary house, you can just have 10% in cash in your bank, and the other 10% can be took from other sources, such as the second degree pension or the third degree pension. And I believe, I'm not sure about this because I didn't directly ask it to the banker, but I believe that you could also do it through donations. For example, your parents want to help you to build a house or to buy the apartment, they can donate you the 10% that's missing. So just know that if it's a primary house, you will need 10% in cash and 10% from other sources. If you have less than 10% in cash, you cannot buy the apartment. It's better always to have the 20% in cash, of course, but not all people can afford it, especially if it's the first house that you buy. Now, if you want to rent out the apartment, which means you want to make a profit out of your apartment, you will need 20% all in cash. There is no discussion here, there is no other way to do it. You need 20% or more, of course, in cash. Now be careful, because the laws are changing and the FINMA plans to raise this percentage to 25%. Also, another thing to be careful of is that not all banks are the same. Some banks can even ask you to put down 30% if they feel like it, okay? But the minimums for the law are right now 20%, and we actually did 27%. But in the next years, the laws may change and the FINMA may raise this percentage to 25%. So just be careful and always have that margin. So what we did, as I said, we put down around 27%, which means 100,000 francs on a 375,000 francs apartment. So that's more or less a 27% if the math is not wrong. Of course, when you want to choose your down payment, you should calculate what is the best thing to do, because the more you put down, the less you pay in interest and the more profit margin you have, right? So just calculate a little bit what is the best thing for you and put down what you think is right. Now, at this point, there is something really crucial that you need to do. You need to be annoying. If you're not annoying enough, the process will take months. No, actually not months, weeks, okay? The process will take weeks and someone else will buy your apartment. Again, remember that there are many other people interested in the apartment. You're not alone. So be fast, be annoying, and call the bank almost every day. After 2 or 3 days that you send the documents, already call the bank because you need to ask for something. That something that you need to ask for is a favorable notice. At least I think it's called like that, favorable notice. In Italian we call it like that, okay? Translated in Italian would be like that. Which means basically that the bank tells you that yes, you are eligible to receive the loan. That's everything they are going to say you. They are not going to say you the interest rate. You are not going to discuss how you want to amortize the loan. You're not going to discuss the specifics of the mortgage. The bank will just tell you, yes, you're eligible for the mortgage. No, you're not eligible for the mortgage. If you're eligible for the mortgage, which means that you did the calculation previously correct, now you can ask the seller for a contract of reservation. This is a very crucial contract because it puts you in a really nice position. It puts you in a position where the seller cannot sell the apartment to anybody else that it's not you, and you are safe to buy the apartment, and you can take a little bit more time. You can wait for the response to the bank, and you can, play around with this, okay? So just have that contract signed. Ask to the seller if he can make the contract. I don't know if all sellers want to make the contract, and if they want to make the contract, be careful to see if you don't have to pay a fine if you want to drop the purchase, okay? We didn't have to pay a fine, it was not written in the contract, but of course this is not for free. You need to give a down payment to the seller, which is deducted from the general down payment for the mortgage, okay? So we had to give around 10,000 francs. I don't want to give you the specific numbers when it comes to this because I think it changes from sellers to seller. I think they choose how much to ask, but around 10,000 francs, okay? You can work out the percentage, calculate how much would be for you. So this means that from the 100,000 francs down payment that we wanted to give for the mortgage, we had to subtract 10,000, more or less 10,000, and just give 90,000 when we sign the purchase contract, which will be later in this video, okay? I know it's a little bit long. Now that you sign the contract of reservation, you can ask the seller if he can give you the chance to go and commercialize your apartment, so to find the tenant basically. Not all sellers will give you this chance, I'm sorry. Our seller, fortunately, he was really nice and he gave us this chance to already look for a tenant without even having the apartment. And also you should ask if he can give you the keys. Fortunately, again, the seller was really nice in our case and he gave us the keys, so we were able to show the apartments to the tenants. Otherwise, you can ask the seller if he can show the apartments to the tenants, or just you can ask the seller if he can show the apartment, but fortunately, again, in our case, the seller was really nice and he gave us the keys to show the apartment to the tenants. Again, to find tenants and to commercialize your apartment, you need to use the same websites that you used to find the apartment to buy. Just do it for renting. It's not really hard. Again, use ImmoScout at least. It costs a little bit. I think it goes around 190 francs, 200 francs, something like that, to commercialize the apartment for 1 month. I would do it at least for 1 month. Actually, we found the tenant in more or less 1 week, 1 week and a half. Really soon, really fast. We found many people interested. Many people, not many people, but 4 or 5 people interested in the apartment. And there was this tenant, was really nice. It was a young adult, and so yes. But I already talked about this in the last video. So if you want to know about this apartment specifically and why I personally think that this apartment is a really good opportunity, go see the other video. Now, if you find some tenants that are really interested in the apartment, you need to ask for 3 documents. These are, first of all, the 3 past months certificates of salary, the job contract, and the certificate of bankruptcy. These are the 3 most important documents that you need. Of course, it's not mandatory. You can just put the tenant there without asking me nothing, but it's better for you if you ask these 3 documents. These are the most important documents that you need to look at, okay? If the tenant is not perfect, do not accept him. There are going to be other opportunities, there are going to be other tenants. You're not that desperate. Don't go for crappy tenants. Fortunately, we found a good tenant right away. Now you can start preparing the contract even if you haven't bought the house yet or the apartment yet. Just do not sign the contract and do not send the contract to the tenant to be signed. Be careful, because the contract would not be valid. You don't have that apartment and it's useless. Just don't send it. Maybe it's even going to be dangerous because he will have to put the date when he signed, and if the date is previous to the purchase of the apartment, I'm not sure about this, but I think there are going to be some problems, okay? So just be careful, do not send the contract yet. Just prepare it, okay, with the name, with the street, and blah blah blah, all information that you already have. Now also, while all doing this, you still need to be annoying, so you still had to call the bank almost every day and ask them for the progress on choosing the mortgage and choosing the interest rate and blah blah blah. So just be annoying, okay, and take the appointment with the bank. Take the first appointment where you're going to discuss the mortgage in detail. In this appointment, you will discuss mainly the amortization, so how to do the amortization. Now, here you have 2 options. One is direct amortization, the other one is indirect amortization. The direct amortization is the standard amortization. You will have to amortize at least 33% of the total cost of the property, and to this 33% you can subtract the down payment that you gave. For example, if you gave 20% down payment, you will need to pay down the loan just by 13%, not more. That's why we don't pay all the debt, we just pay 33% in total. The direct amortization is this. Now, the other type of amortization that you could have is indirect amortization, which means that you put the money that you should put in for the amortization in a third pension degree. Now the third pension degree is like a Roth IRA, okay, if we want to compare it with the American one, which means that you are going to be paid interests on those money because they are going to be invested, and normally what you gain in this third pension degree is greater than the interest rates that you would pay on the amount to pay down the debt, so the 13%. So it's really good, but you need a long time period, which means at least I would say more than 15 years. And also be careful because you are going to pay more than the amortization. Because why is that? When you do a third degree pension, you will have a certain amount of money that it's guaranteed, which means that you will not lose more than that. That money that it's guaranteed, that's what the bank is looking for. And of course, it's less than what you put in. So you will need to put in much money to get to the same level of amortization. For example, in our case, we had to amortize 25,000 francs in 9 years. Okay, because why 9 years? Because you need to amortize at least 1% of the total debt, so 275,000 francs. This 1% does not apply to primary houses. So if you are buying a house to live in, this does not apply. You can just pay the necessary amount to amortize the 13% or the 33% in 15 years at least. More than 15 years, the bank doesn't want you to amortize. You need to amortize in 15 years. Okay, so that amount can be again put in direct amortization, which means you pay the bank, or indirect amortization, which means you put the money into the third degree pension, but you need to put more because the bank wants that 25,000 to be guaranteed after, in our case, for example, 9 years. Now, another thing to be careful is that if your apartment it's not for renting, you need to amortize before you retire, which means that if you are 60, you need to pay off the 13% or the 13% in 4 years, 4 or 5 years, not 15 years. But if the apartment is for renting, you can go up to 15 years. So just be careful, okay? And just do your calculation, see if the direct amortization is better than the indirect amortization or vice versa. And yeah, just do your calculation, because there are some risks in the indirect amortization. You could lose your money because those are investments. So just be careful, okay? For our case, because it was just 9 years, because it was just 25,000 francs, and because we already actually had the 25,000 francs, but we didn't want to put it in the down payment, we decided to go for a direct amortization to the bank. We will just pay around 1,000 francs in interest in 9 years for that 25,000 francs. So it's not that much, okay? Instead of 25, it's going to be 26. It's not that much, okay? Also, at this point, you need to decide the type of mortgage, so the length of the mortgage. For example, we decided a 10-year fixed rate mortgage. You can in some cases go over 10 years, but it's really difficult in Switzerland. This is the system in Switzerland, okay? Because we don't pay out our debts, it doesn't make sense to have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, because we are just going to pay a crazy amount of interest rate, and you will need to give a crazy amount of down payment. So just go 10 years or less. I would say go 10 years, okay? Go 10 years fixed rate and be safe for at least 10 years. You know your profit margin, and that's perfect. You can also have variables. I don't recommend it, okay? Just go 10 years fixed rate and that's it. So now that you have discussed the amortization and you have decided whether to go for a direct or indirect amortization, you need to take the appointment with the notary, okay? This is crucial because at the notary you will sign the contract of purchase and you will actually purchase your apartment. So just take the appointment with the notary and ask the notary or the seller, because they are going to be in contact, if you can already have the contract of purchase. That's really crucial, because you want to read the contract of purchase before going to the notary. And also be careful that on the contract of purchase it's written everything. For example, in our case we had to add that the seller, so the construction company which built the house and sold us the house, needed to do an additional porch around our garden, our private garden. So just be careful on that, and be careful that on the contract of purchase it's written everything. What's not written on the contract of purchase, it's not going to be valid. Speaking, it's not enough. The contract of purchase, okay? Black over white. Now, when you have the appointment with the notary, go again and annoy the bank and tell them that you need to do the appointment with them as soon as possible to sign the contract for the mortgage. This is crucial because the contract of mortgage is important, otherwise you cannot sign the notary, because the notary will need the approval from the bank that they're going to give that 275,000 francs to the notary that will then pay the seller, okay? So be careful, annoy again the bank. The bank is the thing that you need to annoy the most. If it was for them, they would take months to do the work. So just annoy them. It took us around 2 weeks in total to finish everything. That's because I took the phone up and every day called the bank, send emails, call the bank, send emails, call the bank. You need to be annoying. That's really crucial, okay? You need to be fast, because you want to give the apartment to the tenant as soon as possible and be over with this and start making money. Now, when you take the appointment with the bank, you are going to sign the contract of mortgage, of course, but you are not yet going to receive the interest rate. The interest rate will be communicated only when they make the payment of 275,000, and that will be the date where the actual mortgage will start. Just be careful, don't worry if you don't get the interest rate. They are going to tell you what is the possible interest rate, which is almost that, okay? It's really accurate, because in 1 week they are going to make the payment. In 1 week it's not going to change that much. So yeah, our interest rate, again, I don't want to tell you exactly because I'm worried that I cannot tell you, but I can tell you that it was around a 1%. I know, Americans, I know it's really low. I know you have a 3%, but we in Switzerland have a 1%. Of course, this is also a little bit thanks to the financial advisor, but yeah, the interest rates here in Switzerland, guys, are around 1%, okay? What can I do? They give us houses for free almost. So yeah, around 1%. And that's a really high profit margin. That's why we can afford to buy 375,000 francs apartment and rent it for 12 1200 because we rented the apartment for 1200 francs a month, not included of expenses. If you include the expenses, it goes up to 1300. So that's okay, that's a little bit the price point of our rent. Now, you have signed the contract of mortgage, you went to the appointment with the notary, and at the appointment with the notary you will hear a really good news. You will have to pay around 1.5% if you are in Ticino for the taxes to buy the apartment, and around 1.5% for the notary. You will have to pay the notary 1.5% around of the total value of the property, so 375,000 francs in our case. Now, of course, these percentages can vary between notary and notary, between state and state, so just take this as with a grain of salt, but it's around that, around the 3%. Now that you signed the contract of purchase, you need to make the last payments. So you need to pay the taxes for the purchase, you need to pay the notary if you need to pay the notary. In our case, we didn't have, fortunately, because the seller wanted to pay the notary for us, so we went a little bit around that with that, okay? And so make these payments as soon as possible so that the entire process is faster. So just pay it and don't mind it, okay? At least pay those 1.5% of taxes, of state taxes, to buy the apartment, okay? So just pay at least that, okay? It's going to be faster. Now the property is basically yours. Congratulations, you just bought an apartment in Switzerland, and now you can sign the contract with the new tenant. Just send the contract, give it to him to sign it. If you want to have a template for a contract, I think I will put mine in the description, or I will put you a link where you can find another template. Just be careful, okay? Learn a little bit what on the contract should be written, and yeah, be careful. Of course, I cannot explain you everything in this video, otherwise it would take me years. No, not years, but at least days, okay? So just, you will need to learn a little bit by yourself, okay? As I did, okay? I didn't know anything of this. I had to learn everything on my own. It took me so much to learn it, okay? So just know that you will have to search a little bit on Google. Every information is on Google, okay? Everything that I'm saying is out of Google already. I'm not inventing anything. Of course, the information about the 25% from FINMA, that's a little bit, you know, a private information just between you and me, because I asked the bank, okay? Now, you shouldn't start the contract right away. Start the contract in 1 week, 2 weeks, because you will still need to make the appointment with the seller to give you the keys in an official way. That's because you will need also to do a report of the damages that the apartment has, or the imperfections that the apartment has. Hopefully the apartment shouldn't have any imperfections, any problems, but it's something that we do, it's something to do, so that we are all safe, and there is the paper signed, and it's all perfect and all legal. So of course our apartment didn't have any problem, okay? So just note that. And the super last thing to do is, of course, first of all, give the keys to the new tenant, and then check with the agency for the electricity that the name to pay the electricity is of the tenant and not yours or not the seller's, okay? Just be careful on that. Just call the electricity agency. Normally the seller should already make the switch, but just to be careful, call the electricity agency and ask them what name they have in their database. Now you're all set. Your property is yours. You have the new tenants. You have your profit margin. Oh, do you want to know what our profit margin is? Now, if you calculate everything, we pay around 600 francs of mortgage. Now, I don't know exactly the numbers because I did it 1 month ago, so I don't exactly remember everything, but that's how much we pay in mortgage, and we rented the apartment for 1200 francs. If we don't calculate the costs, for example, for electricity, for the common electricity, which would go up to 1300, and our profit margin is between 400 francs on the lower side to 600 franc on the upper side. Of course, it varies because maybe we need to do some maintenance and all of that, but 400 francs, 600 francs, that's our profit margin every month. So this is all I had to say for buying and leasing an apartment in Switzerland. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that I gave you all the information that you need. If you need any other information, first of all, there is the comment section. Second of all, there is Google, okay? So, but really, if you need any other information, if you have any other curiosity, just fill down the comments and I'll let you know the answer. And again, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like to this video. It took me so much to do. Again, imagine that I had to buy an apartment to do this video. Okay, I didn't buy the apartment, but you get the point, okay? So just do it for the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you in the next video. So we bought an apartment here in Switzerland. Of course, the title is a little bit clickbaity. I'm 20 years old. I really cannot buy an apartment, but my parents did, and I personally did all the paperwork. So I asked my parents if I could do all the paperwork, and I did. So I called the bank, I called the seller, I made a